Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. Hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to take a look at some units in Warhammer Age of Sigmar that we think are great at shooting. What we're going to aim to do in this video is we're going to show off a bunch of different units, show off some combinations to really get the most out of these units in the game. So if you're new to a faction and looking to add something with shooting power to your army, hopefully you might find a unit that we consider great inside this video. If you think we miss a unit that definitely deserves to be on this list and has some great combinations for shooting in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, let us know in the comments below. This video is aimed to show some new players some great combinations they can use to get the most out of their shooting units in the game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Some of these are going to be fairly obvious. They're units that we all know are great at shooting. Some of these may be a little bit less known to those not, I guess, hearing about the top tier meta sort of armies at the moment. With that said, let's get cracking on, and this is going to be 10 units in Warhammer Age of Sigmar and great at shooting. Number 1, and this should come as no surprise to anyone, but Vannari Aurelin Sentinels from the Lumineth Realm Lords. However, let's talk about what makes them so great. They are archers, so first of all, they are made of paper, but they do have some built-in rules that really do cover those weaknesses. Their general thing is they don't like being shot back, so they will generally shoot their opponent first, and with some of the rules they have access to, they can generally outshoot most opponents in the game. For one, they have the Skyhawk model, where the unit champion doesn't actually get a bow, but rather gets a cool little hawk, which he can send off to mark a unit within 30 inch, and the unit does not need line of sight to shoot that particular unit. In addition to this, even if that model is gone for any particular reason, they have the ability of unmodified hit rolls do a mortal wound on the roll of a 6+. If the hero or the unit champion is still alive, they can have access to a War Scroll spell, the Power of Haish, which can increase the mortal wound ability to a 5+ unmodified rather than a 6+. This means a third of all shots going out of the Vannari Aurelin Sentinels are going to do mortal wounds. This unit can also become Battle Line, which of course means there can be more models, so there's more mortal wounds coming out of a larger block. The army has, or the unit rather, has the bonuses to hit at short range. It has multiple different profiles, and when it's firing at 18 inch, it can get +1 to hit, so it'll be 3s and 4s rather than 4s and 4s at long range, using the line of sight not needed shooting variation. They, as wizards, also get to pick spells from the Lumineth Realm Lord's lore, so they can pick a spell called Lambent Light, which grants them rerolls to a target that is in range of the caster, which is 18 inch. This means that this combines really well with their +1 to hit already, so there'll be 3s rerolling, doing mortal wounds on a 5 if they can get all of their spells off. And there are ways they can get that Power of Haish, thanks to another one of the characters in the army that can provide the spell for them. Or, indeed, you can use Lambent Light from another caster. There are ways to get both these spells from another source. The Alithia sub-faction in the army is particularly good at helping out Sentinels, as they have a command ability that grants rerolls of 1 to hit in shooting, and they also allow multiple units in some sort of twinning rule to receive the same command ability when near each other. This can be any of the generic ones, which is pretty cool. All in all, Sentinels are a great self-sufficient unit. They don't need anyone near them all that much to get the best out of the unit. Next we have Bloodstalkers from the Daughters of Cain. Now, you first think Daughters of Cain, you do not think great shooting units, but Bloodstalkers are one of the best units at shooting in the game. They each have 2 shots per model, which means even though they are in 5 model lots that you purchase them, they are going to get 10 shots, so they're going to put out the same amount of shots as, say, something like a unit of Sentinels. They do have 2 wounds per model as well, and this combines great with some other things, like the fact that they can, with certain buffs, potentially get up to a 4+, ignoring a point of rend armor save with a 5+ rerollable after damage save or ward save, so they are really survivable for a ranged unit in the game. They have the ability to shoot in the hero phase, and this is really what makes the unit great. You can take Marathi and she can activate them to allow them to shoot in the hero phase, doubling the amount of shots you can get out of this unit and really just putting the pressure on your opponent. You can potentially, with a good round of shooting in both your hero and your shooting phase, get 2 units off the table, or at least severely damaged, with the amount of mortal wounds this unit can put out, thanks to its hit rolls of 6 on the unmodified roll, doing a mortal wound. You can put this into play and get a whole bunch of rerolls and other abilities that just make your Daughters of Cain units do what they do better, and Bloodstalkers just love receiving all of the buffs from the army. Number 3, we have Botboys from the Cruel Boys / Orc War Clans Battle Tome. First of all, this unit is pretty cheap, and they are a battle line option in the Big Yellow subfaction, which is one of the Cruel Boys specific subfactions within the Battle Tome. They can do unmodified hit roll mortal wounds, however, they do mortal wounds equal to the weapon's damage characteristic thanks to the Army Allegiance ability Venom Encrusted Weapons. There's ways to increase this to the unmodified roll of a 5+, with the Swamp Cooler Shaman choosing to not cast spells can instead give poisons out to units nearby to him and get them to do mortal wounds on the 5 rather than the 6. You can combine this with also the Snatcher Boss on Snarg Raker Beast, which can add an additional mortal wounds to those caused by any previous effects. However, this sort of works and stacks somewhat. So if you have all the abilities on your Botboys, you would do on a 5+, 2 mortal wounds, but it would only be on the 6 that you would get the Sludge Raker Beast's additional mortal wound on the 6. So you would do 3 on 6, 2 mortal wounds on a 5 if you had both. On top of this, the Big Yellow subfaction does give extra range to the weapons, and it also allows you to reroll a hit roll in the first turn of the game for each unit, which is pretty sweet. So some really cool ways to get a ton of mortal wound shooting out of this unit. Next up is Iron Drakes from Cities of Sigmar. So what exactly makes these stubborn little dwarves great? You have 2 shots per model standard if the unit has not made a move in the same turn and there are no enemies within 3, otherwise they do you get 1 shot per model. They are 3s to hit and wound standard and rend -1. So that can be a decent amount of shots if this unit hasn't moved. The unit champion may also take a Grudge Hammer Torpedo for some extra damage potential. It's like damage D3, rend 2, 1 shot. What's cool about them as well is they do actually get +1 save against other shooting, meaning they can actually do pretty well in sort of, I guess, a shoot-off with other units, though they don't have access generally unless you're taking a Rune Lord to give them, say, the prayer that's going to give them a ward save. They generally won't have one themselves. However, the Rune Lords, the main reason you take them is to increase the damage potential, and they can increase the rend by 1 point, so you give them rend 2, with an answer value to prayer, which is pretty solid. This unit also works really well just in multiple different sub-factions. Living City allows you to ambush the unit on the edge of the table, getting that shooting to where you want. You can also, in Greywater Fastness and Excelsis, give the unit, or multiple units rather, of Iron Drakes +1 to hit. So you can have 2 units of Iron Drakes, both at +1, because they have either an Allegiance ability in the form of Excelsis or Greywater Fastness, a second command ability for +1 to hit. So you can get multiple units shooting and hitting on 2s. Next up, we have Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows from the Stormcast Eternals Battle Tome. These guys have 2 shots per model, coming units of 3, so 6 shots per 3, and they can do on a hit roll of a 6, 2 mortal wounds on the unmodified hit roll of a 6. They have access to a holy command called Thunderbolt Volley, which is a special unique enhancement for Stormcast Eternals. This is going to allow them to, once per game, shoot in the hero phase, just getting more shooting potential out of the unit. On top of this, if you take, say, Bastille Dom in your army, he can allow you to redeploy units in the first turn. So this can allow you to redeploy your Vanguard Raptors with their long strike crossbows and try to get to shoot something maybe your opponents tried to hide from the unit. So you can really sort of play around with how your opponent's deploying and then just simply move around and shoot that thing off the table anyway. Number 6, Adjudicators, and well, so they have very similar benefits, much like the long strikes we just talked about. They have the holy command, Thunderbolt Volley, to allow them to shoot in the hero phase once per game, and Bastille Dom can allow them to redeploy in the first turn as well. Now, they have 2 shots per model as well, but they only do 1 mortal wound on the unmodified hit roll of the 6, but the thing they have for them that the Raptors don't is numbers. So you can have multiple of these, thanks to them being a battle line unit. You can have 15 of these, which packs out 30 shots, which on average should score you about 5 mortal wounds in there, or some more if you manage to roll hot on the unit. With a Thunderbolt Volley, they can definitely do the damage. Just weight of fire here is going to be the thing that sort of sometimes can tip them above the long strikes. Number 7, we have Storm Fiends. So these things can pack out an amazing amount of firepower. You have rattling cannons that do 3d6 shots. You have the mortars that do a ton of damage at range and can ignore line of sight. You also have the warp fire projectors, which can do a load of mortal wounds as well. So you can have that really nice combination of lots of mortal wounds and high rend in the same unit. This can work really well because this allows a unit to really be able to deal with any threat on the table. You can get rerolls to hit and wound from more Warp Power, which is one of the spells in the lore of Warp Vault Galvanism, available to Arch Warlocks, Warlock Engineers, and Warlock Bombardiers. And then you also have Warpstone Sparks, which are a Clan Scribe battle trait, which can add +1 damage to all the unit's weapons. Imagine rolling hot on your Storm Fiend with Rattling Cannons. His 3d6 shots rolls 18, and all of a sudden you're going to have +1 damage on those 18 shots, so they're going to be Ren 1, damage 2, and they're going to be rerolling to hit and wound. There's just so much damage potential in Storm Fiends in so many different ways. They can just be absolutely horrendous to your opponent when shooting. Next up we have Salamanders. They're just a great unit. They really do work well just literally by themselves with very minimal need for anything else around them. Lots of attacks at higher rend and with a decent damage as well. So you can see a stream of fire from the Salamanders. They're shooting attack. They have 4 attacks each at 3s and 3s, rend 2, damage D3. However, if they roll a 6 to hit on any of those, it is D3 mortal wounds instead of any normal damage. On top of this, if you're playing in Starborn Seraphon, your unit has the ability to teleport around the battlefield. And with this, also when summoned, because of their 12-inch range, and indeed when they teleport as well, they can shoot immediately because they will be in range of stuff. They don't have, say, an 8-inch weapon where they're going to be out of range. They have a 12-inch, so they're going to be able to shoot around the table and do the damage wherever it is needed on the tabletop. Next up, another Seraphon unit, but this time we're going to go with a coalesced unit. So this model with the solar engine, the Bastille Dom with solar engine, packs out a ton of damage to attacks, 9 in fact if it's at full health, at which case it will be a lot of the time. This thing is incredibly hard to hurt. It's got so many defensive buffs, let alone the fact that it is in coalesce, so it's going to get the ability of -1 damage to all attacks that hit it, which is really nice. But the Bastille Dom is just a tough as nails monster besides that anyway, thanks to a ton of its other abilities. Things like its ability just on a 1+ save while it's not suffered any wounds. So the attack also does extra damage to weapons if it's got a solar engine, so it'll be damage 3 versus Chaos Demons, so against a ton of armies in the game it'll actually do a load of damage. And in the Thunder Lizard sub-faction you can allow this weapon to shoot twice for a command point. So just a ton of cool things you can do with these. They're just on top of an incredibly durable monster that's going to pack out a ton of shooting damage. And our last unit for today is Crypt Flayers from Flesh Eater Courts, another army you probably didn't expect to see here, but Crypt Flayers are a really interesting shooting unit. They have a unique mortal wound shooting attack where you roll 2d6 and you subtract 2 from the result if the target is more than 3 inches away from the unit, so this works really well when you're in combat. And if the result is higher than the target's bravery, then the unit that they target will suffer a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference between the bravery and the dice roll. This can of course be modified. Now, this ignores effects that, say, armies like Osseo Bone Reapers who ignore bravery actually care about this, because you will still negative their stat even if they can't fail a Battleshock test. Doesn't matter, you're negating the stat and changing the characteristic rather than like affecting their bravery properly with Battleshock or anything like that. So you can scream off units like that. This works really well with bravery debuffs, being able to take endless spells or other units and combinations that will allow you to get bravery debuffs on the table, affecting your opponent's braveries in large areas. Works really well for your Flesh Eater Courts, and in particular this playstyle with Crypt Flayers. Crypt Flayers can also be battleline in Blister Skin, where at 180 points you can take a decent amount of these models across the table in small units that are really fast, able to do a ton of mortal wounds across the table, all just by yelling bad words at your opponents. Well, that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. And also, why not drop us a comment below and let us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our little community here at Cinderful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the video's description to our Discord server. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel more and in another way, you can do so either by supporting on Patreon or YouTube members. You can do either of these by following the links in the video's description, and as a special thing for everyone who does, we'd like to give a shout out first of all to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James, Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domer, Mark Harvey, James Cater, and Samuel. And a special shout out as well to our YouTube members: Greenrich Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Vinny, Lockloric, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, and Sean Scott. Lastly, a special thank you to, first of all, Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel you can see here, and to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing background work for our Discord server, making sure it all works nice and properly over there. Thank you all for watching once again, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.